I'm Susan Steele Mulholland, and welcome to Artbeat. During this edition of Artbeat, we'll travel to visit two artists who have remained young at heart through their creativity. First, we'll visit a tower built by Phil Powell in New Hope, Pennsylvania, and then we'll travel to Buckingham to be with interior decorator Jane Ashley. I know you'll enjoy this show. Phil Powell is an absolutely delightful, elfin-like New Hope artist whose energy and self-sufficiency have enabled him to create the unusual and the one-of-a-kind throughout his life. His rustic workshop is tucked away behind his home, and it is filled with tools of all types, raw materials awaiting his next project, bits and pieces of past work, and the warmth of artistic inspiration. He often collects first and creates a use for his collection later. You were an engineer.
I started out, yes.
And from engineering, you went into furniture design.
I had done it as a child. I had been doing building furniture, mostly remodeling in those days. And then I just got into it. It was my hobby, and I decided to pursue my hobby. When I was in the service. I was in the service for 4.5 years. I was drafted Second World War. And I decided while I was in there I didn't want to come back to engineering. But,
too dry.
Yeah, so I tried my hobby, and from the day I opened, 1951, it worked for me. It just, I never had to work again.
Now, you did a lot of one-of-a-kind pieces of furniture.
90% was one of a kind, yeah. That one chair I did with the velvet cushions, that I probably did most of that. I did about 100 of those, probably.
Now, what period of time is this chair?
The original one was done in about 1948, and then it evolved. I stopped making them probably in about 1975.
What wood is this?
Walnut. And
it's handcrafted.
It's all handcrafted, yes. Most of our stuff was done completely. Well, you know, you run the basic shapes through saws, things, and then you hand-shape the arms. Were all hand-shaped with a thing called spoke shave.
What were you really known for? What had you developed in the furniture line that you were known for, your trademark?
I would say that I was probably one of the first ones to explore the surface of the wood. Like Nakashima was the first one to sort of like bring the natural look of wood, you know, using that woody quality and the grain of the wood as being the main feature of the design. And then I decided to explore the surface of the wood, because feeling that the tree doesn't grow flat anyway, to just sort of reintroduce some texture to the wood. And the way I did it was starting to carve it and following the grain. I always used the grain. I didn't superimpose a design on the wood. You know, like I didn't decide I'm going to do a classical shape like canthus leaf or something. I would just follow the grain and explore it and dig it out.
Your own front door is a good example of this, isn't it?
Yes, that was one of the first pieces I did like that, yeah. I did that for an old showroom that we had up in, near this train station.
Now, who's we?
By then I was associated with Paul Evans. Now, he did metal furniture, and I did, he wasn't doing furniture at the time. He was doing, he was a silversmith, actually. And then he went into doing other pieces, like sculptural pieces.
But you did the wood.
I did the wood, and I did the showroom door for that. Then we decided that he had to go on doing more. He had to manufacture, so we split up, and I went back down to Mechanic Street and brought the door down there.
You did a really whimsical piece that's totally different from anything you'd done in the past, the pink bench. What was this for?
I just got an idea. Some customers that had a very more traditional-looking sofa of mine had they had originally been down in Center City, Philadelphia, and they had a solar house built for them, which sort of postmodern solar house out in Phoenixville. And the sofa then was around a fireplace that was round. The architect designed the fireplace around the sofa, and then I designed this piece to be at the head of a little gallery upstairs where the sun comes in later in the day.
It's delightful.
And that's why the sun faces on it. And I took the colors from what they had reupholstered the sofa in, the same colors.
Phil, we're in the third floor of
Third
the
floor.
tower. And you have been building this now for many years. Why? When did you start this and why?
That's interesting. I wanted to get some southern exposure. I own half of that house that's in the front, that little house. And I wanted to get southern exposure, so before the house was settled, we had agreed that I could wrap this around to get all the southern exposure.
So this is a tower. I mean, how did it begin? I know that we can show that.
We dug the foundation, a round foundation. But first I had added this little rectangular addition, 3 stories of that, to the old house. And
That was your beginning point.
Beginning. And then I wrapped the tower around that, so I'd have a place to tie in. Otherwise I would have tied into the person next to me, or it'd be right against their house
So
right
you
there.
would have killed their
So,
light.
so I pulled that out and then built this around it.
Now, you do every inch of this work yourself?
That's become an obsession, yeah. I dug the foundation by hand with a shovel, poured the foundation, laid the block, cut it, and then every nail that's been put in this, I've put in. And it's taken a lot of nails.
I bet.
And then I did it floor by floor. You build one floor, and for one winter, it was just that, and it looked like one of those oil tanks you see when you come out of New York, you know. And then I added the second floor, the next 2 floors I added the next year. And then the roof, that same year I put the roof on, and I'm afraid of heights, so I did the roof from the inside. This is all done from the inside. I put the sheathing around about enough that I could lean over and put the shingles on all the way around. Then I put another row of sheathing on, lean over, put the shingles all the way around, then put another row, and then inside I kept building my platform inside so I could just move it around and lean over.
Clever. That's your old engineering tricks.
Yeah, and I felt that I was safe, you know, because I had that in front of me. But every single shingle had to be cut with an axe by hand. Every shingle, because it had to be tapered because of the conical
and you did that
shape.
Also.
Yeah. It was very, it was like a, excuse me, but it was like a very zen thing to just be doing it in the weather. You know, I did it in nice weather, and it was very methodical. You know, just shingle by shingle, you lay it, and you do it, and you look around, you know, you're up there with the nice air. And
well, it's great being here and hearing the New Hope steam engine and
this
hearing
is
all
new,
these
but
sounds.
it's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, sitting
The
here,
treehouse.
this is a fantastic space, and it's not finished yet. You still
No
have a lot
way,
of,
no.
and you're going to put insulation in.
There'll be insulation in there, and then I'll treat the ceiling in some way. I don't know how.
Undecided yet,
Yeah,
huh?
no. That'll become
But
much
it's
later.
a wonderful collection that you have here, and you're kind of doing the tower around it. I see your masks. Do you pick up masks on your travels?
Yes, I do. Masks or anything I can get, I find.
Does
You know,
color,
in
is
Japan,
color
yeah.
what you're after, or?
Mood?
Mood?
No, some example of their ethnic art. I prefer sort of folkish type art. It doesn't have to be specifically folk art, but
Well, for instance, I know you told me the board. This board is from a Sicilian farm cart.
correct.
And you've used not only the board,
The ironwork I've used on the bench as you come up the stairs. At the iron bars holding the back of the bench were the parts that held this onto the farm cart.
and then this Sicilian chamber pot
This
is now holding your beautiful flowers.
there it is.
Uh-huh. And then behind me,
This
Is
is an Indian, Indonesian rice storage jar.
and behind it.
That's something I bought. It's a tapacloth. It's probably from the. It's oceanic. I don't know which tribe.
And you carry these things home or ship them home?
I usually have one shipment done by boat.
Now the beam on the second floor, where was this from?
That's from East India, but it belonged to a customer of mine who sold Oriental rugs and in Chicago, and I was there delivering something to them, and I brought the beanbag. I traded him something
Little
for
did
the
you
beam.
know that it was going to be the...
Well, I knew.
Did you?
I had the idea for the tower, and I was going to incorporate it some way. I had no idea how I was going to incorporate it, but I was going to use it in the tower.
And then on the second floor, the way you're doing the beams, they're all different.
And they're going to be treated different. They're going to first be painted some, maybe the color of this, the background of that dull red.
Mhm.
That's the color I was speaking of, sort of blood red, dried
That'll be
blood red. And I'm going to then treat each beam, maybe put mirrors, copper pieces, stud it with
Like
copper.
the Indian feel? Or...
Indian feel, yeah. That closest to Indian feeling, yeah.
Now, the second floor will be your dining area, kitchen.
Dining, kitchen, living.
And
yeah.
this
will be
floor.
bedroom. This will be bedroom.
And then your entrance, of course, through the door, but what's behind that door? That will be for guests.
That will be a guest room and bath down there. Mhm.
Now, you have a lovely studio, too, and the wall is full of pictures and mementos from
Yeah.
your past. Do you construct out there?
That's where I make my furniture. And now I'm doing, maybe 3 or 4 pieces a year, and I usually start just about this time. I should be doing it right now.
Right now, you
As
should
we
be
speak,
doing
yeah.
that, yes.
As we speak.
And you developed this lovely sitting area outside the tower recently, didn't you?
No, I've always used that area, but I just put the floor down, the bricks down, to keep me out of the mud.
And the little stream here. It's
Little
so-
stream
it's so
we dug
pleasant.
out. The stream was a natural stream that runs from a spring up the street and came through the properties to our property, and then it dropped into the ground and comes out to the sewer on
So
the
you just
other end there.
rediscovered it.
We rediscovered it. We dug it out and put a fountain in, and my neighbor has goldfish in it.
Well, up here, you get the feeling that you're in a treehouse, but on the second floor, looking out through the branches, really, you've made this little
Little porch
balcony,
or deck,
yeah,
balcony
with,
porch
with
deck.
found branches.
Mhm.
It really does give you the feeling of a treehouse.
And there actually are branches from the property, the tree that fell down.
And this magnolia tree must be beautiful in the
It's
spring.
Wonderful. You can sit under there for about 5 minutes after rain starts and not feel rain. It's just like a big umbrella.
Well, I know that you love to travel, and of course all that you've collected shows that. What do you have in the future? What are you thinking about doing in the future? Where are you going?
Well, as long as I can travel, I want to travel. It's, it's getting more costly all the time, and I'm doing less work, so I'll probably be traveling less. But I hope to go to India.
Have you
I've
not
had-
been there?
No,
yet?
no. East India, I want to go, But I had an aborted attempt this year.
And with the trouble.
And then they're politically very unsound,
Well, you've been a New Hope resident for a long time. What is it about New Hope that inspires you or that keeps you here, keeps you coming
I
back?
think it's mainly that you can meet people, you can go out to breakfast, and you can meet people of all sorts that you probably would never meet in your ordinary living, And sometimes you don't want to see the person any more than just that time.
Well,
but
does-
you get a great input, you get a
Yeah.
great diversity of thought. And,
New Hope
it's always
draws
interesting,
a
always
lot of artists,
interesting.
doesn't it?
Many, and in many fields. Even the business people here seem to be more inventive than business people elsewhere, because it isn't the best place for making money. It's a way of life. You have to consider a way of life.
The artistic, creative
Yeah,
way of life.
yeah.
I know that there's a unique piece of furniture sitting down on your second floor that you designed, and it's beautifully done. And you'll demonstrate it for us, but will you tell us about this?
Okay, for a couple of years, friends of mine, an artist, Joe Crilly, and his wife, have said they wanted me to build them a library ladder, and they were always joking, "Oh, I guess we'll never get our library ladder. You'll never do it. We'll never get one." So completely as a surprise last year, I came up with the idea. I saw this bicycle wheel, and I thought it was so beautiful that I bought it and decided to use it in some way. So I decided to incorporate it into the library ladder, because the library ladder should have movement, and they don't have a regular place to attach it like they do in libraries, where they have that ladder that
Right.
has the little wheels that run. So the ladder has to be able to be portable. Well, most ladders are semi-portable.
Right,
You
and
know,
they're heavy. They're
heavy, yeah. And to be strong enough, Joe's a pretty big man, to be strong enough it has to be heavy, you know, in itself. So I decided to make the wheel and the bicycle incorporate with the ladder to make it
does look
run
like
around.
Deschamps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think he would love it.
You know, as you say that, I know the piece you're speaking of.
Yes.
I think it's in the Philadelphia Museum,
Yes.
as a matter of fact.
But now, what wood is this? Because it's lovely.
It's varied woods. As they age, they become looking more alike, but the reddish wood is a wood they call badoque. That's an African wood. The basic woods, most of the wood in it is walnut.
Well, now, how does it work?
Well, I take that little wheel and I wind that down, and then that in turn pushes the wheel down and raises the back legs from the ground, and then with the two handles you're able then to steer it around to where you want. Then when you get it there, you wind it down, and then you go up, pick your book, put it on the shelf. And
I bet they were thrilled, weren't they?
oh, they were thrilled, but surprised and thrilled.
Well, it's a conversation piece. It has to be.
But I offered to buy it back from them, so they had no choice.
All right.
I
now
wish I had it.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it's lovely.
Because I don't own anything of my own, as you can see. There's I don't have any furniture. Well, I don't have much furniture anyway. I have the chair without a seat in it. No, but most of the furniture I do on order. 90% I do on order.
People who have talked to me about you, and people say wonderful things, and they always talk about
That's
your
nice.
philosophy of life, or just being around you that keeps them so up. What are your words of wisdom? Give us some words of wisdom.
Follow your dream, I think. It's whatever
That's
it
what
is.
you've always done.
Yeah, I don't care what it is, yeah. And I think if you, here's what I honestly believe. Anything you do, in what you're doing right now, you're putting out energy, and it's being received. And as soon as I started building my house, or as soon as I was in business, people started coming to have stuff made, and I wasn't that good, you know. That doesn't mean anything. It's the energy.
It's the receiving, it's the
people-
beginning of the energy.
You're putting out energy,
And others
people
receive
are
it.
receiving it. And I have that relation with all my customers. It's almost a love relationship. We're part of the family almost, you know, because it's a handmade thing, you know. There's no price on it. You can't make money. Absolutely, forget that. You know, it's more.
It was love.
More of an exchange, yeah.
In 1955, Jane Ashley established the first Interior Decorators Design Center by introducing model rooms in a 17-room duplex in New York City. She is a 40-year resident of Bucks County and is quite a delightful lady who has been the decorator of choice for clients all over the world. Will you tell us some of your experiences, perhaps in an exotic place that you went with one of your clients?
Well, yes, I think that, of course, one of the most exotic places that is still in our own country is in Hawaii. And it was my privilege to work in Claire Booth Luce's house in Honolulu. And it was not only a choice experience to work with that fabulous woman, but to work in her beautiful house and to develop a new studio for her and take advantage of the furniture that she had enjoyed collecting, principally Oriental things. And
So your challenge
Yes,
was to take her Oriental collection and work it in?
yes, to use it to the best possible advantage in every nook and corner that I could. She was not an easy woman to work with because she had very definite ideas, but once I was able to prove to her that certain positions and locations and color and the various facets of interior design and decoration were brought into her surroundings, she gave me carte blanche. But it was a bit of a struggle at first because she was an extremely independent woman, naturally.
Yes,
she was
she
so
would
brilliant.
have to be.
So very, very brilliant.
I know that you did
a commission for Gypsy Rose Lee. I'd love to hear about it.
Oh, Gypsy was a fabulous, hard-working woman, and also very definite in her tastes. But all I had to do was to know those tastes, which I did, because I had lived in the front section of her great New York house, which was a two-part house, for a number of years. So I knew Gypsy before I did her house in Beverly Hills. But she loved Victorian things and had a beautiful collection of them. So I was able to use them very well in her bedroom in Beverly Hills. And we had to do a good deal of restoration in the wonderful house that she bought, which was way up on top of a hill. But it all came off very well. She was most cooperative and loved beauty and loved color and had things to work with. It was never a matter of having to go out and buy anything for Gypsy or for Claire Luce either, because they were very successful women who had collected all over the world and had beautiful things. The former Sonnenberg mansion in Manhattan on Gramercy Park, 35 rooms, I think, altogether. The famous Sonnenberg mansion, which had been bought and restored by the public relations genius, Benjamin Sonnenberg, who was really the daddy of the public relations business as we know it, had bought the house and lived there with his family for 40 years. And he had made it a fine house, but when he left it, then it was bought by my client, who wanted it as a showcase, a show house. My client was the president and founder of Evian Perfumes. When architecture is beautiful and perfect, it should be followed by everything that is put into it, from color on down to the last bit of furniture. So my client, whom I had known for some time and I had done other jobs for him, gave me carte blanche to do as I saw fit. So it was a glorious assignment that lasted for 8 years, because in the third year I wasn't quite finished and he unfortunately died. But I was asked to stay on and finish it and until the estate was settled. So all in all, I lived in that beautiful mansion, just with help, until just over a year ago.
Jane describes the ballroom at the mansion.
That actually was the only thing that my client told me he wanted me to do. For the rest of the house, I had carte blanche, but he wanted a ballroom. And so that I gave to him. And it came off very well, because I put balustrade across the front of it, and that is the musician's balcony, I called it. And there were several lovely parties given with pictures of the musicians up there playing their violins and the piano.
So you do a lot of research in your house.
Oh yes, there's no end to it, because there's always so much to learn, so much. Because this house was to be used for corporate purposes, and for entertaining for the buyers of Evian perfumes from all over the world, and to provide suitable space for their salesmen from all over who would come into town and have meetings. And so there was a kitchen, an enormous kitchen in the basement, and whenever such occasions arose, help was brought in to serve those purposes.
So the bedrooms were important, though.
The bedrooms were important, but only as a show house. He wanted this to be also, this was a very important facet. He wanted this to be a continual show house for raising money for charitable purposes. The purpose of the house never came about because he died, and then the entire estate was thrown into litigation and has only just recently been settled. But the house now is on the market.
Jane's most recent venture is that of crafting large handmade tapestries, which were recently on display in New York City.
Well, I don't call myself an artist. I don't know what to call myself, but I think maybe it's more of a craftswoman, because I've never felt capable of doing anything original. The more I study art and art history, the more I feel I'm frustrated. I can't do anything original. And then I think, well, you're not alone. Picasso went back to the caveman and to do his original things. But I really think I'm more of a craftswoman. That is how I think of myself. In my wall hangings, have tried to copy in a different medium things that I felt were very beautiful, and do them on a scale that could be a wall hanging hung in a public area. The things I do really don't fit into many residences. That is, these tapestries or wall hangings, whatever one would call them. They're adaptations, giving complete credit to the artists that I copy. The Van Gogh, the Gauguin, the enormous copy I have made of Henri Rousseau's Dream, which hangs in the Museum of Modern Art, New York. These are part of my Amish series, and I have done them so that many, many people could enjoy these copies of these paintings.
Jane is ably assisted.
I have a wonderful assistant, and I could never have done any of these things without her. That's Amelia Trauger, who's a Bucks County resident from birth. And she has been my right hand and is a genius with a needle.
Jane's favorite tapestry is Van Gogh's Irises. Her more modern pieces are colorful and beautifully executed in bright silks and sequins. At 84, Jane has no intention of slowing down.
I have to work. It's I'm driven to do something creative. It's a form of insanity, and if you don't do it, then they lock you up, because I'm sure it go off in different directions, doing unpredictable things, and so I must continue. I think all creative people have to do this, or they die of frustration. They have to do something with whatever is given to them, what urge. But the luckiest of us are those who find something that we feel we can do well. And I have felt that in my decorating and in this pursuit. And I do, because the things have been praised, and I think others do think they're lovely and enjoy them. So that is enough to keep us going. If we didn't have some feedback, we would, I think, wither away. But creative people are the most fortunate people on earth, I do believe, because we never wonder, well, what are we going to do next? We find a way, an outlet, and we are blessed.